Enemies. Most people fear them, avoid them, resent them. We are taught to eliminate opposition, silence, criticism, and surround ourselves only with supporters. But Baltasar Gracián saw something different. He believed enemies are not merely obstacles. They are instruments. In reflections often grouped under the idea of how to use your enemies, Gracian explores how rivalry, criticism, and resistance can sharpen intelligence and strengthen character. This is not a guide to cruelty. It is a guide to strategic growth. Welcome to 10-Minute Books, where we break down the world's most powerful books into practical lessons you can apply immediately. Today, we explore how Baltasar Gracián transforms opposition into advantage. The first lesson is simple but uncomfortable. Enemies reveal truth. Friends tend to protect your feelings. They soften criticism. They overlook flaws. Enemies do the opposite. They expose weaknesses without hesitation. They point out mistakes directly. They highlight vulnerabilities you may prefer to ignore. Gracian understood that criticism, even when hostile, often contains information, and information is power. In everyday life, this means listening carefully when someone challenges you, not reacting defensively, not dismissing them automatically, but asking quietly, "What can I learn here?" A rival at work who questions your competence may reveal areas that need strengthening. A critic who challenges your ideas may force you to refine them. An opponent who competes aggressively may push you to improve your discipline. Without resistance, growth slows. Opposition sharpens skill. But there is an important distinction. Not all criticism is correct. Prudence requires filtering. Separate emotional noise from useful insight. Discard insults. Extract instruction. The wise person does not absorb hostility. They extract intelligence. The second lesson is emotional control. Anger is predictable, and predictability is weakness. When someone provokes you, they often hope for reaction. Reaction exposes insecurity. Reaction reveals strategy. Reaction gives away leverage. Gracian advises composure. In practice, this means not responding immediately to criticism, not escalating public disagreements, not allowing your emotional state to be controlled by someone else's hostility. Calmness unsettles aggression. When you remain composed, you retain power. In professional life, this is critical. A colleague who tries to undermine you may expect visible frustration. When instead you respond with clarity and restraint, you appear stable, and stability earns trust. Emotional discipline is not passivity. It is control, and control creates credibility. The third lesson is strategic rivalry. Gracian believed that enemies elevate standards. Competition forces preparation. It eliminates complacency. It reveals whether your success is genuine or comfortable. When no one challenges you, you may begin to relax. When someone competes with you, your awareness sharpens. In business, a strong competitor compels innovation. In creative work, rivalry pushes originality. In personal development, comparison can expose weak habits. But the difference between growth and insecurity lies in perspective. If you view rivals as threats, you shrink. If you view rivals as benchmarks, you expand. The key is not obsession. It is calibration. Observe what your rivals do well. Improve your own standards accordingly. Let their presence refine you rather than consume you. Another insight Gracian offers is that enemies create visibility. Public opposition can increase attention. Handled wisely, it can enhance credibility. If you defend your position thoughtfully rather than emotionally, Observers may respect your composure more than your opponent's aggression. This requires restraint. Not every accusation deserves reply. Not every critic deserves engagement. Strategic silence can be more powerful than argument. In today's digital world, this lesson is even more relevant. Social media amplifies criticism instantly. A single comment can trigger waves of reaction. Many destroy their reputation by responding emotionally in public. Gracian would advise distance. Pause before responding. Ask whether engagement strengthens your position or weakens it. Sometimes the best response is improvement. Another deeper psychological truth lies beneath these lessons. Enemies clarify identity. When someone opposes you, it forces you to articulate what you stand for. It compels you to refine your values. It exposes whether your convictions are shallow or deeply rooted. Comfort rarely produces clarity. Conflict does. Gracian also warns against revenge. Retaliation, driven by ego, blinds judgment. The goal is not destruction of the enemy. The goal is elevation of yourself. If you focus entirely on defeating others, you become reactive. Your actions revolve around them. But if you focus on strengthening yourself, their influence diminishes. This shift in perspective creates independence. When you use opposition as fuel rather than threat, you become harder to destabilize. Resistance builds resilience. Criticism builds refinement. Rivalry builds discipline. Adversity builds awareness. But there is another layer to this philosophy. Enemies reveal your emotional triggers. Notice what kind of criticism affects you most. Is it questioning your competence, your intelligence, your integrity? The areas that sting the most often expose insecurities that require attention. In this way, enemies become mirrors. They show you what still needs work. Instead of asking how to silence them, ask what within you reacts so strongly. Self-awareness transforms hostility into self-development. There is also a lesson in patience. Not every battle must be fought immediately. Sometimes the most strategic move is to let time work. Success itself can be the strongest reply. When you improve quietly and consistently, critics often lose relevance. Gracian's philosophy encourages internal focus. What can I control? What can I improve? What standard can I raise? This mindset prevents you from becoming consumed by external negativity. It shifts energy from defense to development, and over time, this compounds. Small improvements accumulate. Emotional reactions decrease. Strategic awareness increases. Confidence becomes grounded, not performative. There is also humility embedded in this approach. Acknowledging that you have enemies means acknowledging that you are not perfect. It keeps arrogance in check. It reminds you that growth never ends. Even success invites new forms of resistance. The stronger you become, the more refined your opposition may become. Therefore, the practice of using enemies never stops. It evolves. And perhaps the most powerful everyday application of this philosophy is this. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "How can this strengthen me?" Instead of thinking, "How do I silence this person?" think, "What standard do I need to raise?" Instead of reacting, reflect. That mental shift changes everything. It turns frustration into feedback. It turns rivalry into refinement. It turns adversity into advantage. Over time, this approach builds something rare: emotional steadiness, strategic clarity, quiet confidence, and in a world where many are easily provoked, steadiness itself becomes strength. Ultimately, how to use your enemies is not about others. It is about self-mastery. It is about emotional discipline. It is about strategic awareness. It is about remaining steady in the presence of friction. The world rewards loud retaliation in the short term, but it rewards composed growth in the long term. And the long term is where real strength resides. That was How to Use Your Enemies by Baltasar Gracián, explored here on 10-Minute Books. Which lesson stands out most to you? Emotional control, strategic rivalry, or turning criticism into instruction? Let us know in the comments. And if you value timeless wisdom applied to modern life, subscribe to 10-Minute Books and turn on notifications so you never miss our next breakdown. Because true power is not in defeating your enemies. It is in mastering yourself.